guys all get the wave on your emails?
Except for us being invited.
Okay. Well, I'm the one that they dealt with, so I just wonder if you just sent it to me, maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't see it.
Yeah, I don't see any.
Okay.
What was it for? That youth summit coming up?
Yeah, yeah.
What's up in my connection? Being weird.
I will say last year, was it last year or the year before when they did some kind of thing at the, what's the name of the little place over here by the mail, US mail. What's that name of that hall there?
Oh,
Turner
Turner Hall.
Hall.
It's at Turner Hall again.
Oh, okay. Well, last year or the year before, they invited, I think it was one board member too, and it was Diana.
Okay.
So,
All right.
Maybe you're the one, Dan.
Well, yeah, I'm sure Diana talked to them too. I know that David he introduced me to her and he was on a board with her previously. So, but I met with them over there at the collective
okay.
and we talked about phones and that sort of thing, so.
Okay.
And last night when we talked to Leanne, she said they have one bus with 60 kids that they're taking to the medical, where they can do the hands-on stuff, see if they want to be in a medical field.
Is that at the tech or is that at the hospital?
Lord.
Where is that?
No, I think it's somewhere in Waukesha, I think.
Okay.
And
It was not good.
she said the buses are just
The
so
reader was
expensive. They'd really like to do it. And I said, well, call
Yeah.
Tina. They might fund
Well,
the
then
bus.
there's no
Oh,
problem
yeah.
downloading all of them.
So
No, sorry.
It's all right.
You gotta get your book back phased.
she said when they came back from the one where the contractors and all that sort of thing, they had to do woodworking or whatever.
Yeah.
She said that everybody was talking about going into the trades.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, that's a smart thing to do, honestly, 'cause
Yeah.
they do not know how they're gonna fill the gap when everybody starts retiring.
Well, yeah.
It's good,
And
a stable job.
that's why we do these kind of things, or we take kids to them because they don't know what kind of jobs are out there.
Right.
Hey, Scott, I see you're on. Can you hear us okay?
I can, thank you.
Yeah, okay. Here we go again with the meeting.
While you sort that out, I am going to call the meeting to order at 5:30 p.m. Let's take a look at the agenda for tonight. Looks like everyone's in attendance. Yep. And the first item is public comment. I'm not seeing anyone, so we will move past that to our first discussion, which we're going to need Scott for. And that's some Neola policy updates. So Scott, no rush, but
Oh, thank you.
when you're on, have you started?
Great. Well, it's nice to see all of you. I really wish I could have been there in
Jared, can you
person.
remind me where you went again? I went to the 3 dots here.
I have to try to remember.
So I went in here, you have to speak that, we've got the microphone.
Yeah.
Video. General.
It might be this, but I'm not sure if I could add or. I don't know.
You want to try talking now, Scott?
Sure. Can you hear me now?
No. Yes.
You can look over my shoulder this time to make sure I know what I did, because I can't remember what I don't necessarily.
Here.
Yeah, you are. I'm just got 2 windows open.
Oh, okay, you're making me out.
Yeah, no, sorry. It's all right. Yeah, because this first this update.
That's the quick notes for the whole thing. Which I hope that.
Switch, right? That's Yeah. We'll do that too. First time, yeah. Okay, you stood after a while. All right. Good, I know.
Didn't the micro?
See if that works. Hey Scott, try to mute and unmute yourself again and see if that works. We made you a meeting host.
All right, how about now?
Mm.
Can you hear me? No?
Try unmuting now, because I tried to mute you and see if you can unmute yourself now.
All right. Can you hear me?
I think it's a connection issue. If you've got him talking, it looks like it's
It's
There's
got
some, yeah.
yeah, maybe try plugging and unplugging the Owl's connection to the computer. That would work. I don't know. If it's off. Is the tab itself muted?
No, he muted him. No, he's unmuted. That's the transcript.
Can you hear me now?
If you look at the top, I can't. If you look at the top, the tab that says mute, like your little thing at the top, sometimes you can mute those individually. No, up farther. So you've got your agenda tab, your WUSD policy committee. Yeah, that one. Yeah, right click on that. Right click on that and see if that's muted. No, it says mute site, so that means it's not.
Yeah.
Sometimes that happens. Hmm. So that's for our microphone. Our test speakers.
Yeah, it's not getting our speaker, is it?
Yeah. It is.
Is it? It looks like it's on. I see the eyes are on.
Testing, testing.
Yeah.
Testing.
It's got a little microphone mute button. Maybe you can turn it off. Or like a plus or minus fine.
Try again now.
Testing, testing.
There
Testing,
we
testing.
go.
All right.
It was, the speaker wasn't picking up, so I shut it off and then turned it back on.
Perfect.
That's all I did.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Sorry.
Oh, no worries. No worries. Just as long as you never can teach my wife to do that, we'll be in good shape here. Okay. So
You're welcome.
to meet
I'll call her up.
right? Oh, all right. Is it all right if I just get started? Is that good? All right. So thank you so much. As I said earlier, evidently to myself, but now I'll say to all of you, thanks so much for letting me join virtually. I am out of the state right now, but normally I would always try to come to these meetings in person if I could, but we'll do the best we can. The purpose for me to be here is partly to celebrate for you as a committee and for your board for your good work on policies, your excellent work integrating your existing policies, and getting, in the end, your policy book active and doing it in a timely manner. From where we started to where we are today, you really, moved through things, and I think you did excellent policy work along the way. So I'm going to start with this rather quickly. I'll share my screen unless there's some way that you all want to do it there, but I'll share my screen and cover the information that you had received from me prior to the meeting. So are you all able to see this? Okay.
Do you want to hit the X on the people that's
Yes.
there? That just makes it
There you go.
easier.
All right. So I know not everyone perhaps there is familiar with Neola, so I'm just going to cover briefly what we do. First, I'll just take a second to introduce myself. I am a retired superintendent and former business manager in the McFarland School District in McFarland, Wisconsin. And also I'm very familiar with Watertown. I spent 10 years there. I went 4 years to Maranatha Baptist Academy and then on to the college there as well. So it's always a nice thing to meet with any folks from Watertown. If you've been on the board a while, my high school principal was J. Mark Holland, and my 10th grade English teacher was Jelaine Appling. So I have a lot of ties with all of you there. So it's good to be with you. So Neola, just to sort of give you a quick overview here. I'm going to try to do this way. Okay. Neola's 40 years old. That's when it was founded. It really operates a lot like a CISA. We call it cooperative policy development. With all the schools that are in our network, they provide a lot of policy information and updates and things that worked or things that were concerning. So we work with, in Wisconsin, I think around 370 school districts out of 425 now. We represent 1,600 clients right now in 6 states. We've been in Wisconsin for 35 years. We have 12 offices, so to speak. That means we have 12 folks that do what I do, work with school districts, and are spread out across the state in different geographic areas. All of them are retired superintendents. And I think as someone who's done this job for a while, this has been just a real honor to be able to do this and to stay in touch with working with schools, working with superintendents, and many of which somewhere along the line from when I taught school finance and then taught the superintendency, many of the folks that I get to work with are my former students as well. The policies are written specifically for Wisconsin. We use Renning, Lewis, and Lacey. Probably in your area, if you work with Renning, Lewis, and Lacey, you may work with Shana Lewis in particular. And we also work with a number of other law firms because obviously we have so many districts that our policies are in place. We get really good suggestions from other firms for us to consider for updates or changes or things they see. And then we do have an attorney on our staff that handles some of the national, matters like Title IX and the National School Lunch Program and things like that. We partner with Board Docs and Renning, Lewis, and Lacey. So that's really our main partnerships that we have that would impact your district. We really pride ourselves in some of the things that at least I learned when I was in McFarland that Neola is able to do. We're really able, I think, to see that people are able to keep up with their policies. And rather than maybe saying we're going to go through this section this year or these 2 sections, Neola is always updating its entire book. So for the most part, districts that sign up with us and then are involved in our update process, which every district is involved in the update process. If they're able to process the updates as they come out, they stay current with their policies. And then as a committee, they often have time to work on a lot of things that maybe wouldn't be in the Neola catalog, but are things that are really district specific, that the committee may have concerns about or wants to discuss or wants to look for a policy in a particular area. But the majority of policies or topics that would need to be in a board policy book, we really think we completely cover. But then again, every district is a little different in the way that they form some of their custom policies. You had a fair amount of custom policy work. Your committee and administration, I think, really worked hard to take the best of both. And so you've done quite a bit of custom work along with taking Neola policies as well. We are strictly nonpartisan, which having now worked for the company for a while, I've learned that we tend to offend people on all sides of the political spectrum, just because there are things that we will put out that just follows the law. And if it's not clear in the law, then we don't put out a policy on it. We might put out some advice for you to talk to your attorney, but if there isn't clear statutory or administrative rule provisions or something like that, we won't go outside the law. So we pride ourselves in that we think that our policies are overall nonpartisan in every way, and it's a regular discussion among all the associates in the state and with the company as well, that we sort of just stay on the straight arrow and don't let any partisan issues influence what we're doing. We have a proactive and systematic process. You'll see that in a minute when we talk about the updates. Obviously, the velocity of state and federal law and rule changes is something that is very valuable to people. Neola spent, I think, $300,000 on its Title IX policy, and then spent another $100,000 when one president changed, and then spent another $100,000 reviewing everything and reversing the policy backwards. So we have a lot of expense, but we can share it over a lot of clients. But those type of policies are something that would be fairly expensive for a district to do on its own, and hopefully we're able to provide that at a very cost-effective price. So overall, what we hear, you all are going to the school board convention here in January, probably the number one thing we hear from all of you as board members is that this is a primary function for a board, to oversee policy and set direction. And we often have folks come to us and say, we just have a peace of mind knowing that we're up to date. And the policy books that I drafted in districts, the districts that are joining now tended to have good policy work as you did, but there were some, earlier that we would end up with policies that were, 40 or 50 years old, and the policy book had never really been looked at in the district. So it's nice to bring that type of district up to date and in a good place. We do assure that we have our policies are legally compliant, and we, as a part of that guarantee or assurance, would be involved if there was some question of the policy with our attorney helping your attorney to determine what the next move might be if there's some type of question over our policies. It's important, I think, to always try to follow our language, especially on some of the critical policies like non-discrimination, Title IX, but obviously policies like facility rental and things like that, every district does completely different. You gain from the experience of other districts. Most of our updates that we do, I would say about a third of the material comes from our attorneys or some change in the law, and the other 2/3 comes from client experience that they bring to their associate, then that associate proposes at one of our update planning meetings to consider changing this policy, maybe because it wasn't clear or this suggested addition and things like that. Even your district, when we put out the Act 20 reading policy, you can imagine that goes to all the director of instructions across the state, and a lot of them have really good ideas. So that policy will probably keep evolving. The AI policy, we're coming out with a a new AI policy. A lot of that policy work came from feedback from districts and other resources as well. So you have a local policy manual, and then you also have a number of policies that are your combined policies. So you always have access to all our templates. It's not a one-time thing. In essence, you're always able to look at any of our most current templates and policies. No two districts look alike in the Neola ecosphere. We have lots within our policies. We have lots of choices for boards depending on legal choices, but depending on how they want to handle particular situations and things like that. Two policies I can think of: the social media policy offers everything from your social media page is closed to comments whatsoever, to having it be somewhat of an open forum. Our student publications policy has everything from really strict control over student publications with a lot of oversight to what the student association for student publications, they would like to see it very, very open, where there isn't really any restrictions on what students could say or write in a student publication. So when you draft that policy, you have the opportunity to make choices, and that are board choices that will represent what you as a board feel is best. Where we're at today is we're heading into updating your policies, and just to kind of give you an idea here, the committee and the board have reviewed the Neola templates, and for the most part, there's still a few here and there, but they're active, and you have active policies. We looked through your existing policies and matched them up, and we did some renumbering of your policies. If it's one that you had before with an old number, we made it fit into the Neola numbering system. Then you have approved your final policy manual, and you've made that active. And now the last thing on this list is to complete the Neola updates missed. So while you were drafting, Neola every 6 months was updating all of its policies. And generally those updates involve anywhere from 30 to 40 policies. And then there also are some technical corrections like legal citations or maybe typographical errors that people will catch. Those are considered technical corrections. And those, I believe by your board policy 131.1 can be done by the superintendent. And we never put a technical correction out that our attorney doesn't confirm that it would fit under the definition of a technical correction. So the big next step is to start to go through and update all your existing policies. You've done this work in good time. You finished, I think, pretty close to 2 years. If you look at when your drafting actually started, it's almost 2 years to the date. And that's our goal, that a district will complete in 2 years. So you've completed that goal. There are districts that I still work with that are 5 years into drafting. And then I've had districts that complete their drafting, in less than a year. It just depends on what the structure is and what the board interest is and a lot of the other matters. Our next goal for you would hopefully be by 3/1/26 to get Neola updates 34.1, 34.2, and 35.1 applied to your policies. As you were drafting, if you hadn't touched a section, so let's say when you first started, you were just doing the board bylaws, the zeros. If an update came out, I went ahead and updated the templates to the most current templates. So you don't necessarily have to update everything that's in those updates, but for the most part, in 34.2, that one, pretty much everything needed to be updated. And then 35.1 will come out sometime around November 15th. So we'll add that to your work. The update process, again, comes from legal counsel, suggested changes from you and associates. Finished drafting in Waterloo, maybe, I think it's been like 2 years ago. And as they were drafting, the board president, who was also the policy committee chair, had a question about the wording of, it was dealing with supervision of students when they're on site or off site or at activities and things like that. And he said, I really think this should be made more clear. And here's what I think would be a good idea. So I opened up the policy. I made an edit to it. I put it in the book for the next update for considerations. Then coincidentally, I went to their first meeting like this, where they were going to take on their first update. And I can't tell you how good it felt for him to see that his change was already in the next update, that he'd been listened to, and it was a great change for all our clients. So that one board member, through a suggested change, changed that particular wording, paragraph towards the end of that policy for all 370 districts. So together we're better. We're going to make better policy. Sometimes boards or board members will suggest things that don't make it through the update process, or administrators will suggest some changes. Sometimes we'll suggest them as associates. But in the end, we meet for a day and a half, cover every suggested update. And then from there, we make the next update, which again is 35-1 coming out November 15th. For the update process, as part of what you pay for the 2 updates a year, which is I think around $3,600, $3,600, you get 2 on-site visits and 6 hours of my time to meet in whatever way you want. I can meet with a policy committee to cover an update, or I can meet with as I've done here, meet with the superintendent, and we go through it, and he brings the changes for you all to discuss in this type of meeting. So in addition to that, included in that cost is providing the policy part of board docs that was created just for Neola. And then also you get the opportunity certainly to call us, ask us questions, and things like that. We don't charge like an attorney or something like that. If it's something that's going to take quite a while, we might need to charge a client, but for the most part, we're able to get that done. I will say this as an aside. Lynn, are you still there?
Yes, I am.
Lynn is, and Jared for that matter, but Lynn is the person that I talk to a lot in terms of planning these type of things, or these need to be added to our active policy, or we have a question about this or that. Lynn is outstanding at doing that. At one point, I was working with over 60 districts at once. And out of all the administrative assistants that I've worked with, she would be, in my mind, one of the best. So you're really lucky to have her. She's done a lot to help facilitate this process. And if you want to give her a standing ovation right now, you can. I'm just not there to. So. I want to show you now, like where the updates are located in your board docs. So I have 2 different things opened here. First, this is where we prep the updates, and this is what we only went through. This is actually 2 different updates. We went through these, and we only went through the end of the 4,000s, because at that point you still had some 5,000s and 8,000s out there, I believe, that you were doing, and we thought this would be a great start for the committee. I'm going to show you an update in a minute here, but sort of a sample of one of them. But I like to mark them up with an NC or a C, and NC stands for no choice. That Neola updated the wording in the policy, but they didn't add any new options or anything like that. And then if it has a C next to it, there's something that either Jared would decide and send it to you for your approval, or sometimes there are things that it's just best for the board to decide. One of the things recently in updates was about board members attending meetings virtually and how that's noticed and things like that. Those are usually decisions that the board directly probably would want to weigh in on, or like the board ethics policy, things like that. But for the most part, other than the bylaws, which are the zeros, the administration will bring recommendations to the policy committee. If you want to get through your work a little faster, because you're going to be reviewing, I would guess, say your policy book is 420 policies, you're probably, to get updated with these 3 updates, you're probably going to be reviewing about 80 changes to policy. So sometimes when these are all put out for you to look at, sometimes if the policy committee wants to run it this way, they say if there's any of the ones that have no choice, so like if we look at board powers here, all they added was or otherwise under the supervision of school authorities. Coincidentally, this change is the one that came from Waterloo. So that's kind of a so that must be like in 34.1. So this is the change. And the suggestion sometimes for a committee, especially when you're going through the updates for the first time, is to say anyone can bring up a policy that's a no choice policy because they just have questions or want it explained or things like that. Or, but anyone's with a choice, we're going to discuss and make sure we're comfortable with the choice that's made. So you might come to a committee meeting and let's say there are 20 of the policies don't have a choice in them. Giving an invitation for anybody who would like to discuss any no choice policy, that would be the start. And then after that, you would work through the ones with a choice. That can save you some time. In addition, when you look at the update, so I have the update right down here. These are the actual updated templates. So we show how they were, how they were updated. Each update. So this was update 33.1. I think I actually misspoke. I think we start with 33.1. I think that was wrong in the slide. But every policy we update, this is really a prep document for the administration and the board. We explain like what revision we did in there. And we'll often put recommended but not required, recommended for consistency, just to kind of give boards a heads up. The update summaries are written by Renning, Lewis, and Lacey. So that's where these come from. And for every policy that you're going to be considering, you will be able to find at least this rationale behind it as a part of the process. All right. So one of the policies I just thought I'd show you is the Start College Now program. We have added a policy title here. Generally, if we go into a policy and it has pronouns, we change those. I wasn't aware, but for the most part, all legal writing now does not use pronouns. So that's at least part of the reason for that, but we aren't worried about it. So we just make the change when we actually update a policy. Then we added a section called Other Instructional Costs in addition to tuition. And just because that was something that we thought was important to help guide the district, we added calendar days there. And that's the update, and one that doesn't necessarily have a choice behind it. Your purpose today, and I'm happy to help, but I also know that I've met with Jared and Lynn, and I know some of the administration had feedback on these, but your purpose today is to start to get through this list of policies all the way through the 4,000s. And then once you get done with that, we'll come back, we'll do the 5,000s, and then when 35.1 comes out, November 15th or so, we'll be in a position to either add that to the list or wait till this gets sent in and approved. The next update after the one in November comes out in May, I think right around May 15th of next year, 2026. So you have a fair amount of time. I thought that trying to get these done by March would be great. And probably we would send them into production with a rush saying, please clean these up and make them active. Whenever Neola changes a policy, under your tabs on board docs, when you approve a change, we retire that policy and it's always available for you to see. So eventually the retired area will end up with quite a few policies that are the result of all the updates along the way. And we also store and archive all the work you turned in. We have a record of all the work you did when drafting with the original markups before they were cleaned up and made active. So we try to keep a really good record of everything a district is doing. Some of it is visible to all of you. Some of the things we keep in an archive that we can bring over to your site if you need it. We just don't want the sites to get crowded or get confusing, but you have access to any of the work you've done along the way. I think that's it. Are there any questions at all from the committee?
Not for me.
Perfect. Jared, do you want?
Good. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Scott.
Jared, do you want me to stick around here, or do you want to just start covering with the committee the update that we reviewed together? It's totally up to you.
Yeah, well, I will leave it up to the committee. Do you guys want him to stick around for extra help, or do you want us to start digging in? Because I will tell you that the ones listed here, like Scott said, Lynn and I met and some administration along the way. We went in, and for all the no choice ones, we wanted to just make sure that that aligned with the work we had previously done, and we accepted in the draft form those changes that we were looking to make. Okay, through all those, and then ones where there was choice, we picked the choice. You can see which choice we picked, but those are all up for your suggestion. But we picked the choice that we thought best fit our situation. What you as a board would probably give us direction. But if you want to go in a different direction, that's totally up to you too. But we wanted to try to get ahead of the work for you and to give you an idea of what the administration might see are good choices. Remember, those are just suggestions, right? You are the final decider and aimer of policies. And so we just tried to give you a little bit of look and guidance as to what the administration might think, but we're happy to go any which way you need us to. So
Sure, that sounds great. Scott, honestly, if you could stick around, I think it's a great opportunity for us to be able to ask some questions. I know you're not necessarily like the end all be all of information at Neola, but I would love to have you stick around. So while we talk about a few of these, we could maybe get some of your insight. It might be a little bit more helpful. And that way I don't have to put Jared on the spot. Usually he's the guy that I'm like, Jared, why is this going on? And he's like, oh, let me talk to someone. So you might be able to give me a little bit more information there. And I'm sure I'm not the only person on the committee who has questions after looking through the policies. So I would like to put it to other committee members before I start off on mine.
I have three things.
Okay,
Okay,
what's your first?
so if we look at PO 1100, this is really just a clerical, like, the third paragraph doesn't I think it's supposed to say super in the third paragraph, the first sentence.
So, are you in ours, Scott?
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
Is this the right spot? Do you want to share a screen there, and I can just follow along on an extra screen here, or do you want me to keep sharing my screen?
Yeah, so the third paragraph starts with shall instead of like, I'm assuming it's supposed to be the super shall continuously monitor the effectiveness of the district organizational plan and
yes.
recommend.
yes,
So it's really just a typo kind of thing for that.
Got it.
Thank you.
Got it.
yes.
And
It's the
then
superintendent shall. Yeah.
you need a second one?
Yeah, I
Okay,
do.
not a problem.
Is that a changed one or a non-change?
It's a non-change.
It's
choice.
1100.
Choice 1100.
So it's the third paragraph, when I just think that super needs to be added, superintendent needs to be added in front of the third paragraph. Okay, and then 1130, the ethics and conflict of interest. In the third line, there's just a double word. I think it's shall. Shall is listed twice.
Which one?
1130.
I know. I'm sorry. Which paragraph?
It's A. I'm sorry, it's under
Letter A.
A.
Okay.
Yeah.
Duties is actually.
Okay, yes, it is duties, yep.
Yeah.
And then the last thing is just a question, so board powers 0122, I'm wondering why it doesn't list in there that part of board powers is to select curriculum for the district, maybe that's addressed in a different policy. But I'm just wondering why it's not listed in the board powers section that we have to decide on the curriculum the district's going to be using.
Scott,
Yeah, I
you got
think-
an answer?
I mean, a couple things. I I don't know if that wouldn't be a bad addition. In the area in the 2000s, which is instruction, it makes it pretty clear that all curriculum has to be approved by the board. As in other words, the board directs the superintendent administrative team to bring curriculum. But that's an interesting question on board powers. I will take that back, and maybe you'll see it in May. So, but that's a good question.
Can we adjust it as needed for our district
Absolutely.
currently, or?
Yeah,
Okay, I'm
yeah.
just
Yeah, I don't think, I mean,
updates.
right. I think a lot of districts, make changes like that. And, the only key thing, I don't think there's going to be an issue with this, because I think we're all well aware that is a responsibility of the board and a power of the board. But there's sort of two ways to do it. One is you can make the change, and I'm going to submit it, so you'll likely see that change if it's something that the attorneys and the rest of the group feel is necessary. You'll see it then, but you will have already made it in your own policy. It might be worded a little differently than what you'll word it, and maybe you'll change to our wording, or not. If you were asking a question for something that like none of us knew the answer to, like a question that needs research or something like that, as long as it's not like immediately critical, I would put that in the next update and try to get an answer for you. If it's something that we look at, run by our supervisor, and that person says, no, we need that answer now, that's something really important, then we'll just do it right away and get you an answer on it. So we'll just consult with our legal counsel. But this one would be one I think you could put in. I don't know if, like, there's so many board powers that this is quite kind of the catch-all: exercise of powers and discharge of specific duties imposed by state law, and whether for some reason these were the ones that we consider the most important. But certainly that would cover anything that the law says is your responsibility.
Official board business openly. I mean, all those are more generic catch-alls for everything. But I don't see a harm in saying, to review and establish curriculum.
I think it would be worthwhile, from my own experience, I think it'd be worthwhile to list that. All good. I know I'm just gonna get totally thrown off if I hear my own voice, like we were talking about earlier. So from my own experience, I know that I've heard from several members of the community who asked about curriculum adoption proceeds, because we've been talking about that recently. And although we don't list every board responsibility due to the length, I think it's useful to have that in a sort of summary policy like we have in 0122. So I would say, would other members of the committee be interested in having that change come forward, adding that on, probably between J and K?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. That sounds great.
I mean, in fact, I think E, without, and I mean, it depends on if you want it to stand on its own, or if you want to embed it into E, where it talks about strategic planning, it talks about improving student learning, establishing annual goals, continuous instructional improvement, monitoring progress. I think there you could say also adopting curriculum and curricular materials, and it'd just be part of E, and it would do us well just there, unless you wanted to stand on its own. I don't
Put that,
what you want.
you put that at the beginning. And
Right, that's what I said, and exactly, it would fit into either E or do another on its own. That's up to you guys how you want to do it.
I personally feel that it would make more sense as a standalone item. That's more about strategic plans and the organization side of things, whereas curriculum is more about, it's almost a purchasing situation where we're selecting which items to purchase for the district. So I would say that, and that would be a better place to put it if we're just thinking about the layout, either before or after E. That'd be a good place to put.
Just one thing I'll share with you. You might notice that this policy at the bottom has the Neola copyright and the Watertown Unified School District. So all of these items, A through K, came from your original policy. This is the total length of our board powers policy. So, I mean, yeah, I think it's awesome, but you're you actually, I don't know that it will make it to a suggestion because we don't do the whole list in the way we present board powers. So I doubt that it will end up being changed in this, but what you're really editing is your original policy. I suspect that you had prior that you combined or customized to make this policy.
Sure. That makes sense. So yeah, I think we can add that in. Is everyone on the committee good with adding it in between D and E?
Yes.
Then, okay, cool. Yeah, I think that's the best place.
Yep, between, I'm sorry, between D and E, or would you doing it between J and K?
Do it between D and E. We talked about how that kind of fits in with
Flows better.
yeah, flows into E.
Yeah.
Okay, and it's review and establish curriculum?
Mhm.
And approve curriculum materials.
Yeah. And then once Lynn has that, you had a third item?
I did my.
Oh, you did.
three, yeah.
Okay,
I
perfect,
do have a
perfect.
question.
You do have a question? All right, go for it.
Okay, so in 3120.04, third, fourth paragraph down, first cross out. We removed,
It's employment of substitutes.
Okay, yes.
we removed the requirement for a criminal history record check for substitutes. Is that because it's somewhere else?
Yeah, it's a struck paragraph.
Just to recap, first page,
Mhm.
fourth paragraph down. In green.
Yeah, we have a policy called criminal background checks that
Yeah.
requires that for, all those positions, but, I'm just
I
going
believe
to.
that was the reason where it had us take that off.
Okay, that's what I thought, but I thought, well, you
Yeah.
never know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's just too hard to get it so.
So I guess I would ask the question then, why wouldn't we want to reiterate that this is where they would look for that?
Mhm.
I tend to agree with Craig on that.
Yeah, because it does talk about a satisfactory background check in the third paragraph. So maybe we would just want to put like as a sort of footnote, the number of the policy that refers to those background checks.
I'd rather repeat the same information in multiple policies than have people have to look through our entire policy book to find one policy with that information that could be reiterated elsewhere.
Okay, so the one thing I will say is that, in a previous district, different time, right, different attorney. They really tried to strive to not have duplicative language. Because when attorneys start interpreting duplicative language, unless it's exactly the same, right, you may end up having one word that changes what you said in that policy versus this policy, and then you have canceling policies, and then it becomes much harder to defend. And that was their response to it, and they encouraged not duplicative language. If you have it somewhere, you can always at the bottom of this one reference that language in a different policy, right? Do a reference at the bottom to a different policy, and then people would look for that policy. But that was the reasoning
Right,
of why you wouldn't want to necessarily do that.
Mhm.
right.
Here it
Yeah, so just real quick, I don't want to interrupt you. This is the original template, and I can tell it's either been updated since you drafted, or you maybe changed the language. I suspect it maybe has been updated because of a similar question. But with the most current template, it says verify a satisfactory background check, criminal history check has been conducted by the Department of Public Instruction, appropriate state agency, and authorized district personnel or a contracted vendor. And I think the rationale for that, at least in the Dane County area, all of us run our sub programs through a vendor. It was part of the way that we were able to hire retired teachers to teach for us. And also it gave us a larger pool of subs. So I'm not sure when that change came in. I'm going to have to look and see, or I'm going to have to look and see what you all turned in for your work and whether for some reason that was changed in the work that you turned in. But I think like this paragraph right here would if we put it right here. Are you in there right now, Lynn, or not? I don't know if you're in. Are you in the policy, that policy, or do you have it open?
I do not know.
No.
So I'm confused. That is in the policy. It wasn't removed. It does say there,
No,
doesn't
no.
it? There was
Yeah.
verification.
So this
Satisfaction.
this would be, I bring all the update material over. It would take a few minutes to check and see whether this was something that I missed, but this is the language in the template now, which might answer the question, for all of you.
I have a follow-up question for Scott.
Yes.
So what's the difference between a satisfactory background check and a criminal background check?
Yeah. There can be things in someone's background that isn't a part of a criminal history, but gives concerns on whether that employee should work, in your district. So it really depends on like how far you go in terms of a background and what things you want to look at. I think the practice for most districts is to really rely on the criminal history, not necessarily investigating other areas in people's lives or things like that. But I don't know if there's a difference between a satisfactory background and criminal history. It's really, for most of us, it's what comes back from DPI or the Department of Justice when you do the background check, and as well as DPI, because if you're getting licensed by DPI to be a substitute, you're going to end up having a background check as a part of that license. But I don't know that I can honestly differentiate between the two.
Scott, I'll give an example.
I know why.
Scott, I'll give an example that we've used. Somebody has been dismissed from employment for whatever reason at another place. That reason wasn't criminal dismissal. It was, they just weren't a good employee, right? We do the background check and we found out that they got released from employment. We follow up and ask why. And then we find out it wasn't something criminal, but it was just like, does that pass our background check? Probably not. We don't want to hire somebody who was dismissed for reasons that weren't criminal but weren't good.
Go ahead.
But I'm also wondering if you're also creating a loophole on the other side of that coin. If somebody interviews and says, well, I paid my debt to society, but I can pass a satisfactory background check.
Yes,
So maybe you still want that in there.
this was
Just saying.
this was a
Yeah.
discussion in another state not too long ago about
Right.
another school district who changed their policy.
Right,
And so we want to make sure that we are covered here.
right. Yeah.
Well, it looks like what Neola is giving us, what Scott's talking about, is actually having a slightly altered version of that third paragraph that does include the phrase criminal history. So I think the change that Scott is making there looks good to me. I read the language in there. I actually appreciate that it expands to DPI, state agency, authorized personnel, or contracted vendor. So I think overall that looks like an improvement on the whole discussion and option as you brought it up. So yeah, I would be happy with that change that Scott made right there. It's a lot of words, so I'm not going to say the whole thing out loud.
Sure.
Thank you, Scott.
Yes, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any other questions, Lori?
Same problem with the, what was it? 3120.08, I had the same question. satisfactory background check with no criminal background check. as
Oh,
well.
yeah, that's in the,
Same issue, different policy. So 3120.08.
yeah, third paragraph from the bottom
Mhm.
on the first page.
Yep.
Yeah, I see that. Yes, you got houses. Some fronts on. It's right below the green highlighted text. A little bit.
Yeah, I notice again that this has your copyright on it, so I just wanted to see what we have that might be different. What's, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, so so underneath the struck out option 2 highlighted text, it says the superintendent shall require. A little bit farther down from there at the very end, there's a statement about, the last sentence starts on the third line, right there. There must
Mhm.
also be verification that the WUSD, through appropriate state agencies or other applicable means, has conducted a satisfactory background check. And so perhaps adding,
Yeah,
adjusting that, so it says conducted a satisfactory background and criminal history check would be
Yeah.
appropriate. That's
yeah, that's again, that's your custom language, so I think however you'd like to change it, you can. It's not in our actual policy.
yeah. So if we could add the phrase. criminal history.
I do not.
Okay, so it's on 3120.08,
Okay, yep,
right? It is the second paragraph from the bottom of page 1. Starts with coaching and
Yep.
advisory.
okay.
The last.
No, it's the
oh,
third
excuse me, it's the
paragraph.
one- Sorry, it's the one before that. The superintendent shall starts with.
Okay,
It's the last part of the last sentence of that paragraph. Adding the words, Sam, will you read that again?
Criminal history.
Background / criminal history check.
Perhaps. Yeah. You should probably say background and criminal history check, because we don't want one or the other. We
True,
want both.
yes.
Yeah.
Background and criminal history check is better than /.
And I have a couple more questions.
Okay. On the same policy?
Mm.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure. Do we have any other questions about this policy that we're looking at before we move on to the next question?
No.
Go right ahead.
Okay, so 144.5, page 3, second paragraph, under board interactions with staff. It says no board member has inherent authority to require any staff member to respond to the board member regarding a specific request for information. Can you clarify that? Because we ask for information all the time, and I just thought that was kind of odd.
can I have that location one more time, Lori?
Page 3.
144.5,
Mhm.
page 3, second paragraph, under board interactions with staff.
I can clarify that if somebody would like me to. Basically, you can ask staff to provide information, however, they don't necessarily have to comply with you. The individual that you would direct those questions to would be the superintendent,
Okay,
and that's,
yeah,
that's.
so it just seemed odd because
And
we,
I have
in the
to-
course of,
Yes.
if we have some question for,
Right.
the business manager about, finances.
This is why I've always said to you guys,
CC me on the email.
it's like whether or not you wanna put it in policy or whatever, it's just good practice to let me know you've made those requests.
Yeah.
Because if it does become an issue where you feel like you've been asking, instead of getting frustrated, first call should be to me.
Yep.
And say, hey, I just want you to know, I made an ask for this.
Okay,
Because then I can say, hey, I know a board member is looking for this information from you. Would you please give that to them.
Sure.
Cause then they know they've been directed by somebody who can direct them.
So
Because our
far it
board
has,
policies say you don't direct them.
so far it has not been a problem, but I thought it was odd. So, yeah.
So,
It's just
Yeah.
structure function.
so I would put forward then, and I'll put this to the committee, that perhaps we adjust that paragraph for the purpose of clarity. Because it obviously caused confusion for you. When I saw it, I had a question about it as well. That was one of the ones I was gonna bring up. So that, we take that clause, to require any staff member to respond to the board member regarding a specific request for information. To put that clause at the, after perform or not perform any task except as provided by board policy or directed by majority vote of the board. We discuss the request for information, and we put a clarification in that the request for information should go through the superintendent, and that the superintendent will ensure that that information is provided to that board member in a timely fashion or something like
Yeah, however you guys wanna do it, that's fine. Just, it's more of a structure's old chain of command discussion, right? And I think every board that I know of in the state of Wisconsin, right? They say this at every function that I go to, like, you guys hire one person, it's me.
Mhm.
You direct one person, it's me.
Mhm.
You hire me to direct everybody else, right? I haven't seen it here, but I've been in places, and especially when there was union activity, people would be like, I don't care that you're a board member. I have a boss in the chain of command, and this is my supervisor. If you want that information, speak to them. And they've been that bold before in the past, right? Because they're working the policy.
that.
I just want you guys to know, like, I don't see that ever happening here. Usually it's more of a, oh man, yeah, that's right, I was super busy, I need to get to that, right? And then I go, well, yeah, yes, you do, because now you're being directed to get to it, so please, let's make sure that it happens.
Okay.
But if you wanna clarify that more here, that's fine, but it's also clarified in other policies, right?
It was more of a question about like, because I was told, if you need to find out about some details about finance, talk to Sarah.
Mhm.
So it was more of a, okay, what does this really mean? So,
Yeah, and I do that all the time. I say, hey, if you get, you guys meet with administration all the time,
right,
right? And that's why I said, just know that if there's something that I think you think I need to know, or you're not getting what you need, tell me right away so I can,
okay,
help move
Thanks.
that along.
I think also in boards that tend not to work well together, sometimes what happens is you may have one board member who feels like they want to have some sort of a quest to request a bunch of information and take the administration down a path that the board is not necessarily on the same wavelength with.
Right.
In which case, you kind of want to have a policy in place like this that kind of prevents that from happening.
I'm fine with that. I just, like I said, it's not how I've been doing things, and I'm like, ooh, is there a problem? So
Honestly,
Yeah.
we've had situations like that before, and then the first thing I do is I go to the board president and I say, hey, I'm getting some requests from a board member. Is this a board member, or is this a committee thing that I may have missed, or is this something the board wants in general? How do you want me to handle this request for information?
Okay.
So sometimes I ask that too,
yeah, I think it's fine to leave it in place. I just was curious.
because the other weird dichotomy between that is, right, as an individual board member, right, you also don't direct me. The only individual board
Right.
member that directs me through your direction is the board president, right? Or it's you as a group or as a committee direct me.
Right.
Right? And so there will be some times where, like, let's say Sam would ask me a question, I'd be like, oh, thank you for that. And then I would call up the board president maybe and say, hey, just got this question from a board member. How do you want me to go about handling this? How do you want me to organize the information and so on? Because it wasn't a board directive, it was initiated by one person on the board.
Sure. Yeah, I was thinking more in terms of just to request for information. rather than a directive of any kind.
Mhm.
So,
So then we have two options. We can leave it in place, kind of like you floated out, or we can move that statement to the end and we can have a clarifying statement about requests for information. Because I do think that requests for information sit a little bit in a gray area. If it requires a specific action by someone, then you are requiring them to act, which only the full board has the authority for. But like I said, I think that's a little bit of a gray area because not all requests for information require that level of action. Again, if I go to Sarah and ask Sarah for a piece of information and it's not, the example I always use is hand copying 3 books out of such and such's classroom, that's an unreasonable request. If it's, hey, can you tell me where to find this? That should be able to be fulfilled without the specific request of the full board. Sometimes a board member just wants to find that further information. If we want to add adjusting language, clarify that, we can, but David and Tammy, do you guys want to see a change or are you okay with leaving it where it is?
I'm okay with what you've been saying. Makes sense. So I don't see a big change needed in my mind.
Okay. Well, in that case, if we've got 2 board members who are, or committee members, I should say, who are okay with leaving it as it is, then we'll leave it as it is. That's cool.
what do you think, Tammy?
It was clear to me, but just because I know the background.
Okay.
You know, but I understand how it could be misconstrued.
So,
Like, I took that statement as, like, I couldn't go and ask a teacher for something.
Mhm.
You know, like walk into a classroom and say, I need blah, 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 blah.
if I can add one more thing.
Yeah.
Really quick. I think where it tends to be a little bit confusing and become an issue is in an instance where a board member may be requesting information that would normally be provided through open records request to another, like member of the public.
Mhm.
And if the board member, a board member doesn't check their regular civic rights at the door to be able to get information, because they're a board member. So sometimes the language in this can awfully look like that's what's happening,
Sure.
you know?
Absolutely. Okay, as long as we've got that understanding, I think we can move forward if no one wants to clarify it, but that would be my purpose in clarifying it.
I don't have a suggestion to make it better, so,
Yeah, I didn't either. That's why.
yeah.
All I was gonna put in is all board member requests for information shall be directed to the board president and superintendent who shall fulfill the request in a timely manner, but we don't have to put it in there. I can go either way on it. And it doesn't sound like you guys have an issue with leaving it how it is, so I just typed that up if that's where people wanted to go.
Clarity and good policy is a virtuous thing.
The only difference is I don't want to necessarily be the curator of the records, which board policy definitely states as the superintendent, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We can leave it as it.
Okay, sounds good. All right. Any
Thank you.
other questions, Lori, or was that the last of yours?
I just had one more clarifying question. 144.5, board expectations, and the title also says collective commitments. And I didn't see any of our collective commitments in there. I saw a lot of other disjointed things. So I was just wondering what the history was behind that and if that is a place that we put our collective commitments. Because that's what the title says.
You would.
I don't know that I have a great answer for that. I've also just been trying to, while we're talking here, just understand what language is yours and what language, maybe came from Neola. Like I said, you all did a fair amount of custom work, so it takes a little bit of time to chase that down. But let me just look at the actual title first of all to verify that that's our title. That's probably where I need to start here.
I don't believe it is your title.
It only has the Neola.
trademark.
It's,
Yeah.
it's PO 144.5 NC is the code.
Yeah, I see it. So I'm just looking at it right now on a different screen here. Yeah, well, that's our title. So you're right there. I guess I probably should have figured that because it didn't have a Watertown. No, I take it back. Our title is Board Member Behavior, Communications, and Code of Conduct.
We use the word collective commitments here instead of code of conduct. That was switched when we made that change.
So is this the place we're going to put the collective commitments?
We replaced the alphabetical list with the ones that we have written recently, or
Yeah,
So
it's a bit of a puzzle.
I believe that the intent was to add to this document the collective commitments, not to necessarily replace the general expectations of board members.
So will there be redundancy?
Because expectations are one thing and what you commit to as a group are another thing.
so then what I would say is to simplify the conversation. Could we take the section, general expectations of all board members, compare it over the next month or so, we'll talk about that in a little while. And then kind of make sure there's no redundancy between this list and our collective commitments. And then we can keep whatever is unique to this list, add the collective commitments, and remove all of the redundant ones from the general expectations list.
We can, and going back to the conversation that we had around this is where we're getting. Like, this is why we didn't add the collective commitments to this, since we developed it here. Because we said, are we gonna then go back every year we do a collective commitments and rewrite the policy every year? I don't know what you wanna do.
In that
And
case,
if you want to, we can. It's really just totally up to you guys.
it would be simpler to keep the collective commitments separate and just strike and collective commitments from this document. And just leave this document as is. Yeah, behavior and communications, just have it say that instead.
I think that makes sense.
Forward with that.
I'm here for you guys.
I think that's simplified.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's a lot easier. Less work for these guys.
Make it work. Make that simplified.
I think Scott had something to
Baseline
say.
standards, then
Yeah,
could be a little mucky next year, you know?
a little, could be very much. But, so, yeah, I think that's a good idea, Sam, which is to take off the collective commitments piece, just leave the title the way it was without the code of conduct or collective commitments piece. And those would still remain a resource document, an onboarding document. That we have, but it doesn't necessarily have to sit in the policy piece, which would require you to every year change it. Because I'm sure every year you're gonna tweak those collective commitments. And I've seen boards, even halfway through a year go like, that collective commitment's not really working for us, let's reword it. And so, it's like,
I think that's great. And I'm hearing general agreement from the committee, so we can move forward with that. Just, super simple. Way better
So
than
you
doing
got
all the
that
work.
one, just to remove the.
All right, and then I have one question. You guys covered anything I would have brought up, so that's great. I have one more question about this policy, and
a
then
lot of time.
I'm done.
Just kidding.
Oh, yeah.
So you-
Hour and 10 minutes.
It was teasing you.
This one, 0144.5. I just wanted some clarification. Scott, you might be able to provide me with this. One of the updates that we see here is the addition of the word reputation on the second paragraph at the top of page 1. Can you give me a little bit more background? Because I do think that the word reputation is a little bit ambiguous, and I'm just wondering kind of where Neola was coming from on that.
Yeah, let's just take a look at the update overview real fast, because that might answer the question. It's just confirming it. So that It's going to be 34-2. See if I got this right. Clarifying language has been added to several provisions as well as direct reference to conflict of interest. So, if I could revisit my notes from that update meeting last, I think it was April, I might be able to tell you more. I think they're recommended but not required, but I don't know the genesis for it. I do have one other place I can look here. We all of us take notes as we go through. The problem now is that I actually help run those update meetings. So I don't always when the associate put in this request for this to change, there should be a record of like if it came from the actual update recommendation of why it would be there. But I want to qualify to say that it might be in that policy that that the idea was to add a direct reference to conflict of interest. And then when everybody read through it, or the attorney read through it, they said, we think we ought to add this language here. But I'll be able to tell you, I think, in a second here. At least tell you if I do know the answer to that. So appreciate your patience. Here we go.
While he's looking for that, the reason that I bring this up is because I have seen, not here necessarily, but I have seen in various boards or groups when there are social issues or there are complex topics, people might bring those things up and try to articulate them. They might say something that sounds confusing and maybe looks bad to members of the public. I think the term reputation is so broad and so abstract, and it could mean so many things to so many different people that I'm a little cautious about that because I don't want to.
I think it's too speculative.
Right.
Yeah.
So here I found out the background on it. Am I interrupting anybody? I don't want to do that, but
Go right ahead.
yeah. So I mean, this just kind of shows you a little bit of the work that goes on behind the scene. This was for 34.2 update. This is where everybody puts their suggestions in. This was Associate Steve LaValle, and he was drafting with Indian Community School District. And there at Indian School District, as a part of their drafting, community school, they actually would run our policies through their attorneys. And for the most part, there weren't changes, but evidently these changes came from Michael Best and Frederick, which I believe is a law firm. And then our lawyers looked it over and thought it was okay. But I certainly don't think you should feel any pressure to take that change. I think for some reason attorneys thought it would help, but listening to the arguments that you're bringing forward or the questions you're bringing forward, I think that has real merit as well. So, but that was the genesis for it. It came from an attorney review in another school district of that particular policy.
So I suppose what I would suggest to the committee would be we hold off on that. If we get further information that would clarify why the term reputation is added to this policy, we can always go in and add it later if we find that there is good reason. But I would be cautious about that because I feel like it puts a lot of demands on, especially new board members who might come on into the coming months. If we get new people, I just wouldn't want them to feel like they're not allowed to express or try to articulate an idea that they have off the top of their head. I don't think that would be necessarily fair to them. That's how I feel. Any disagreement there, or would everyone feel the same, keeping the word reputation off of this policy for now?
I personally don't think it should be on even with clarification.
I agree.
I agree.
Okay,
It
yeah,
could chill speech
Yeah.
of the board.
yeah, all right, we'll keep that off for now.
The only thing I'll do is follow up is just send Associate Steve LaValle a quick note with the question, because he might know more details, like what the thoughts were directly behind it. And if I get something back, I'll send it to Jared and he can share it with you.
Those clarifying context, then maybe we add something that's a little bit clearer to the policy at that point. Thanks.
Yep.
All right, any other questions from policy discussion? All of these policies that we have here?
No.
All right,
Thanks for joining us, Scott.
yes, thank you very much.
Hey, thank you all. You guys are good, man. You know, I happened to do a hike before I came, and ended up actually sweating a little bit here, and I couldn't figure out if it was from the hike or from the hot seat of visiting with the Watertown Policy Committee. But good work. You all are very, very thoughtful, and my best to you. And perhaps when we get into the next section, I can pop in again, just see how things are going. Or if I'm around, I'd be happy to stop by. But you're off to a good start. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Scott. It's great speaking with you. Have a nice day.
You too.
All right. Okay. Well, if we have no further discussion on item A, we'll move on to B, administrative guidelines for policy 2240, controversial issues in the classroom. All right, Jared, I know that when last I spoke, it was with Jason Bull on the subject. Do you have anything to?
Yeah, so you all know that because of the Supreme Court ruling, right, controversial issues in the classroom has like that policy, and conversely, also, or not conversely, but also in addition, this AG were templates that Neola got on right away. And so when we first started the conversation about having an AG, Neola really didn't have one for us to look at. And we were starting to think about and craft our own, and we were crafting our own materials to instruct. And then we were going to try to take the materials that we used to introduce the topic to staff and try to create an AG. I actually liked what Neola put together for an AG. We took that as well as a second kind of AG, combined them both, because, and then added a little bit of our own language that was clarifying language that we had talked about as a board, and put it into this. And I just want your reaction to it, because I think it does encompass quite a bit of the things that we were looking for. And if there's anything else, I would love to hear how you might change this or think about things differently.
Go ahead, Lori.
It looks good, except for one question.
Mhm.
On the last page, page 2.
Mhm.
Under the paragraph under alternative learning activities for opt-out students, it says, board policy authorizes that such requests are to be honored if the reason relates to a conflict between the subject matter and religious beliefs held by parents. In the policy, we
It
didn't.
should be religious beliefs or personal conviction.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, because that's
So
that difference.
we should
in the
add
policy.
personal conviction there.
Yep.
You're
Oh,
right.
probably, yeah.
That's-
That was the only.
Good catch.
Good, thank you.
Good point.
That was my only question as well. Lori.
Yep, yep, yep. Yeah, good catch, because in our policy, we denoted it as that for good reason. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So second page. That opening paragraph under alternative learning activities. Good catch.
One sec, let me pull up our previous material that we had. And I'll see about, yeah, here's nice. So I do like it. I agree with Lori, but I do think that we lose a little bit of the clarity that we had on the how to teach controversial issues uh tool or reference that we were giving out previously. So I was wondering if we could take some of those points and merge those points in. So is that something that you already kind of tried to incorporate in this draft that's being presented here, or what would you say?
No, we were looking at this in comparison to that,
Mhm.
and we felt that this covered those statements. And actually covered them more broadly, which gave, like, if I'm using this as a guideline, I'd rather be broader in the guideline and more specific on the training than get so specific on the guideline that we can't. I want to have broader authority to be able to say, hey, listen, um, here's where where you're thinking you're not meeting that, right?
Mhm.
I always try to, when I write policy or administrative guideline, I try to give the administration and the board the broadest with which in we can interpret and react to a situation. When it gets down to like professional development materials and those other things, you want those to be very clear and specific, like we had them, and we keep developing them. When it's policy or administrative guideline, I like it to be broad enough for our interpretation to be able to act and respond to multiple different situations. And that's why we went with this, and that's why I liked Neola's version of this, because it was broad enough for us to be able to act in multiple different situations. That's my only, like, if you want to change it, I'm not against
Sure,
it.
no, I can definitely appreciate that. I think that the handout we were providing previously worked well, maybe more on the level that you're talking about.
And it's still going to be what
Resource.
we direct teachers back to at the first level, which is at the principal level, right, and in the building. Then if there is some discussion about like that's not being followed or through, then we go to the administrative guideline and we reinforce with the administrative guideline and policy if we need to,
Sure, sure.
right? For all of those pieces.
Yeah, so I think that sounds good. I think that, you know, there's a little bit of ambiguity, although words are treacherous, always. I think,
If you want to clear something up, let's clear it up.
yeah, I would say letter D on the first page discusses views being derogatory, malicious, or abusive. And I definitely agree that we need to maintain civility in the classroom. However, I am concerned that with the idea that people will be, you know, maybe unfairly accused of holding a view that's derogatory, malicious, or abusive. We've seen that happen. Unfortunately, not recently, but we have seen that happen in this district in the past, where teachers have accused children who, in this case, held a pro-life stance of being Nazis. That's specifically what the teacher told the child. And I would like to know if we're going to leave that in there, because I understand the utility of having that phrasing in there. How are we going to ensure that students are not suppressed?
How
by
about we
that
say
method?
it, of those views that is not intended to harm other students' views or towards a particular group.
Sure, yeah, I think that sounds good. That does
Just
not
use the
intend,
word harm,
that does
take
not
out
intend harm.
derogatory, malicious, or abusive.
Yeah.
And just say views that is not intended to harm other student views or toward a particular group.
That sounds good to me.
Does that work for
The members of the,
Derogatory, malicious, and abusive are those legal terms though that we're losing? Because this is the Neola policy, right?
it's a great point.
True, and I think a little bit back to what Craig was saying, like whatever in a word, like you know how he said you were saying like, well, if you use those words, it could be interpreted to say like, well, I actually have a choice to go the other way with it.
Mhm.
I want to remind the board, like, however you pick the words, right? Within a board policy, and however the administration determines to interpret the words of an administrative guideline, we are the maker of those. and we interpret those,
Okay,
right? And if we interpret derogatory a certain way, we interpret a certain way. We the term harm in a certain way, we do that in a certain way.
so as an administrator,
And I know that being said, I also know that anybody else in the world can challenge that with an attorney. I'm not saying that's the end all in the beginning, but I am saying that the start is we're the ones who implement policies and we're the ones who implement the administrative guidelines, and we are also the ones who interpret them.
okay, so
And it's the consistency at which we interpret them that's gonna be the,
based on your statement, what's your suggestion for clarity?
I'm clear either way. I hear what Sam is saying about how it may be used to misguide or misinterpret a reaction.
Yeah.
Right? It's harder to misinterpret harm. Because harm is a lot more in the eye of the beholder. And the person who's judging what the eye of the beholder said that feels like harm or not harm.
Yeah.
It's broader.
I would say maybe
but-
intentionally, if we just add
That's
the word
what I was
intentionally,
gonna
that would really help, yeah.
That's like,
Yeah, just right after not,
Mhm.
yes,
just put intentionally.
right, intentionally, and use the same words here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm okay with it either way. I think what they were missing was the word intention, or, you know, the intention to.
I agree with that. I like that change.
Yeah, that's better, because you got all kinds of interpretation of those words,
I know,
and somebody is so apt to be hurt that somebody else, most of the other people not, but that person's gonna really be hurt. I see that happening right now.
Yeah. and
And outside.
you can certainly prove intention more than not.
Mhm.
Yes,
Yeah, I like that.
Absolutely.
and that's easier for the teacher.
Mhm. And of course, as a clarifying point, we already have standards and policies in place that state that students cannot use obscene, vulgar language, slurs, things of that nature. So it's not like, well,
This is
I
not
didn't
replacing
mean it
that
to be.
language.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, a student's not gonna say, well, I didn't mean to be offensive when I said that word. Yeah, it's still, there's an understanding that certain terms are offensive. So I think that works. Any other questions? I do think that it looks good. I think that this is good to move forward with as is. I did have one or two other questions, not so much about the document itself, but about some of the other elements that surround the controversial issues. And it's a pretty big discussion. Let me know if this is better off to take to Ed Services. But I was wondering about I provided kind of an example of a walkthrough of how do we like determining whether or not something is controversial and how it gets implemented in the class that Oconomowoc had. I thought that was great. And then also we had previously talked, I think it was not last month, but the month before, about sending out these requests or sending out notice, I should say, of controversial issues, because we were experiencing a lack of clarity in the district about whether it should be for an entire class or an individual module and how we were going to do that.
Right, I think most of those,
Mhm.
other than maybe the last one, right? The last one I think was an implementation discussion,
Mhm.
right? I think that there's clarity on, I don't know that we're gonna see that moving forward. If we do, then I think, yeah, we gotta come back and clarify that, but I just think that was an implementation issue. But going towards the other side, no, I think it is, and
Good picture.
well, yeah, I mean, and if it's not, right, if it's not, it's somebody who's just trying not to follow policy and making an issue of it, and we got other policies we can use to deal with that, right? So I don't know if that's where you're going or not, if you're thinking that there's an intentional willful neglect of following the implementation discussion. But I'm gonna go with, it's new, when things are new, people, need time to, go through the new, and we're all gonna move forward the way we're intended. So, positive attributes is what I like to think about all the time. So, with that, moving forward, I think the other things that you're discussing are things more aligned to pedagogy around the topic. That is clearly ed services stuff, right? That's not necessarily policy, it's defining better pedagogy around teaching these issues and leaning towards that. those will also reinforce the policy discussion points.
Mhm.
And I think have us on a clearer path to, past implementation humps and into actual, what we need to be doing. Okay.
Okay, that sounds great.
I
I
got a
will send a
question.
follow-up email to
Yeah.
you about it. All right, go ahead.
Is a student protected by his First Amendment rights?
Yes.
Yes,
We have student
absolutely.
expression policies, I think, student activism and a couple of other ones.
Yeah, absolutely. They are.
That means you can say anything.
If, it,
You can't
As
say
long as they're
fire
not-
theater, I understand all that, you know, but
as long as they're not harming some other student, you're right.
Or being disruptive.
Or being disruptive to other students' education or the educational process.
Which would have seen language.
So there are some confines, even with protected speech,
Yeah.
that are controlled, right?
I
Because of our
understand that.
environment.
And this isn't talking about a teacher keeping a student from saying something. It's about whether or not the teacher encourages that language to move forward, if that makes sense. So it's more about, there is a pretty wide discussion there, but this is more, I think, about verbal attacks towards other students in that context. So yes, please encourage people, even if it's disagreeing, is what this AG is saying. But
And this is.
disagreement isn't attack. It's not the same thing.
Yeah, it's like if Sam and I are talking and Sam thinks that you should get a free coffee from McDonald's and I think it's no dice, and then I look at Sam and I say, well, you're just stupid. Okay, well, then that would be malicious, right? Like now I am not addressing the issue, I am attacking Sam personally.
So ad hominem is what they call that in the debate world. Yeah.
But
I think that's questionable.
Well, it's not that they can't say it, it's that this is a learning experience and they're learning to converse controversial topics
And honestly, how,
in a productive way. So it's part of the learning experience to not, insult people and be unkind.
yes, I cannot stop you from saying that, Carl. Like, now, this is what I would say to a child. I cannot stop you from saying that. But I can tell you the consequences of you continuing to say that while you're here in the school district. Right?
I understand
You
that.
make your choice. I won't stop you
understand
from
that.
saying it. But know that what you say may come with consequences.
When I went to school, that was said to me.
Yeah, I'm sure. And me.
I understand.
This is the best of us.
It's just, I just asked a question.
It's a great question, Carl. I appreciate you asking it. And it's true. We should err on the side of free speech always. But obscene language, picking fights and things like that, a little bit different. It gets a little bit closer to fire in a theater. But I think that discussion has to happen and we've got ways of doing that. So
We're
we
not
try
going to trample on speech, but we are going to say there may be consequences.
thank you, Carl. Okay, any other questions on 2240 then? Okay, yeah, I'll send a follow-up email to you and Jenny about ed services because I'm there too. So we can talk about that. If there's no further discussion on item B, we'll move on to C, which is 0155 committees. We had some discussion last month about this.
Yeah, and I just want to make sure that you can see down below, we've changed the Educational Services Committee to focus on the things that I thought you said that you wanted that to focus on. And we added a curriculum committee and put under the curriculum committee what I thought you said you wanted there. I'm okay to clarify any way, shape, or form. You guys are the ones who create the committees. You are the ones who design the work of the committees. Just want to make sure I captured it correctly.
I was good with your clarification.
Yeah, I think it reads really well.
Yeah.
Agreed. Okay, cool. Okay, then we're moving on to item D, 0167.3, public comment at board meetings. I think that the two members who brought this up previously were Craig and Lori. So I'll let Lori start as a member of the committee, and then Craig, you can pick up where she ends.
And just so you know, we've just attached it. There's no changes that we proffered or offered. It was a request of the committee chair to put this up for discussion.
That's good because I've changed my mind on this several times. So really thought about this. I mean, we want people to be able to tell us what they think. That's a very useful piece of information. And when you're, when you're about to cover an agenda, you want to concentrate on the comments on the agenda you're about to cover. And so, initially I thought, well, let's put the general like comments about other things at the end. And, then I thought about, well, what if it's a long meeting and they have to sit through a long meeting, right? So,
Or they're a third shift person and the beginning of the meeting I can make, but the.
Exactly.
end of the meeting I
Right.
can't,
Mhm.
right?
right.
Because
so-
that's what we've talked about that. in the past.
Right, so I came up with a possible solution. So what if at the very beginning, you have 10 or however many comments that you guys decide are reasonable for the first half on whatever topic. And then the second half of the comment section right before the meeting will be only on the agenda items. So that way you can roll right into the meeting with those comments right there from the public. And that was my proposal. And then,
We keep the end.
and then you keep the end, you do whatever you want at the end.
So what would the timing be on those two segments that you're discussing?
That would be, I would defer that to Craig
We
because
usually have
he's
15
got more
minute-
experience with that.
Right, so typically 15 minutes will allow for possibly 5 commenters. And we are, when we have people that want to participate, the board has erred on the side of listening to more. So I guess I value that, but we also have a meeting to move forward with. And, the board may be more interested in listening to commentary that's related to decision making that is before them at that particular meeting. So I don't know. I don't know what the right course of action is.
Okay, can I offer this? Like, I'm trying to think of that through the eyes of me being a commenter. Right? A lot of times when people come to the podium, they've got more than one topic they're wanting to address. Some of them may be on the agenda, some of them may be general. And if I'm that person and I know you want agenda items closer to the meeting and general, like I don't get 2 chances to speak there. Right? So I'll want to say them all anyway. In my
That's
3
okay.
minutes.
That's
So I
fine.
don't know how we would help them parse that out.
Well, you.
Because they're gonna say what they're gonna say in
Well,
that 3 minutes.
it's not saying don't say anything about the agenda if you're talking about something general. It's the first half of the commentary section would be. You talk about anything pertaining to the school district. Right? The second half would be, and that includes what's on the agenda, what's not on the agenda. Whatever. The second half would be focused on just agenda topics so that we could roll right into the meeting and focus on whatever they just said. And yeah, you can remember all that and you can take notes, but it's more efficient to have the public comment on the agenda right before the agenda. It just makes sense.
Okay, so a couple things about that. All committee meetings, they should only be discussing things that pertain to the committee, right?
That's right.
Like they shouldn't be bringing any other discussions up that aren't specifically to that committee.
That's correct. That's why we have.
And then so is this more pertaining to like the monthly board meeting?
This is only pertaining to the monthly board.
Okay. My personal opinion is I don't want to dictate anybody's speech. We have no other commenters, but Ms. Smith is not gonna come up and give her statement because we've exceeded the open comment section and she's discussing something that's not agenda related. So she cannot speak at the second half of the comments before we initiate the meeting. Right, like I don't want the community to feel like they have to present to us certain information. I think that they should be able to bring up anything that they find pressing.
David, do you have any thoughts on this?
I'm developing them.
So I would say then, as you continue to percolate, I would say that I agree with Tammy. And I think that Jared raised a very salient point when he said that you're gonna have a situation where people want to talk about 2 or 3 items. Maybe one of them is on the agenda, 2 of them aren't. And I think that more than that, what ends up being, and maybe this would be a positive thing, I suppose, with engagement, but I think what would end up happening is people would say, well, I'm going to talk about the 3 things I want to talk about. And also I really don't like, or I do like the item D on the agenda. And that's all I have to say about that. You know, so take 2 minutes and 55 seconds to talk about the things that you want to talk about, take 5 seconds to talk about something that's agenda. Technically it fits, that works. Now, if you were going to say you're only allowed to talk about the agenda during that second half, again, I think I just generally agree with Tammy. I would rather let people speak on what they want to speak on. That's where I stand, at least.
So oftentimes you don't know that something's important to a community until the community
Mhm.
presents it to you, and if we start guiding their speech, will we find out?
And it's no secret that my favorite part of the day is the opening comments. I love it.
Well, this came up because we already have limited time. And, anybody can email us,
Mhm.
right? And I want to hear about the agenda topics most before a meeting. And so I'm fine with leaving it as an open forum to whatever. But I think it's more productive to hear from people on the topic that you're about to work on.
Okay, so can I ask you, like, from your experience since being on the board, how often have the people coming up to the podium specifically discussed or made a statement about what's upcoming on the agenda?
I think about half the time.
Do you think because I've only seen, there's only been one board meeting since I've been on the board where we had to close down public comment before everybody got through their statements.
Mhm.
Maybe twice. Since April, yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I'm good with whatever direction the committee goes in, but I personally don't think it's necessary.
Okay, I withdraw my request.
The only other option, let me throw it out there. I know you want to say something, but this might be kind of in line. So I definitely understand the utility of that. What I think would be reasonable at that point, if we were going to do that, if you were going to do a split, you would do 10 minutes of open comment, 10 minutes of closed comment, specifically agenda comment, and you would see how that goes for a month and see how that happens. If people are coming up and you're getting to that second half and it's like, okay, no additional comments, what you've done is you've essentially robbed 2 people of their opportunity to speak on things that they think are important if there were still additional people. Now, if you wanted to, maybe you could say, we're now going to transition to agenda relevant comments. If there are none, we will continue to take other comments. Does that make sense? I think that might be a possibility. I just wouldn't want to take away the opportunity from someone who wants to speak on something else. I wouldn't want to take that from them. I don't think that would be very fair.
Can I give another thought after I've been deliberating?
Yeah. Go ahead.
We are already criticized somewhat heavily for restricting people's comments supposedly.
Yeah.
Even though you say what you say all the time, they still feel restricted. If we do anything more to restrict things, that's just another stone to throw.
Yeah, I don't really see. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think your idea is a good idea for getting things done. It's not going to help us right now, I don't think, with the community.
I certainly agree with you there.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Dan. Yeah.
We see some of the same people every month getting up to speak. And that may be restricting other people who would speak, once a year because they're taking the 3 minutes. It would be like a call-in radio program where you can't enter a contest, and 90 days later you can enter again. But I'm just wondering if there's a way that we can let people who haven't spoken get a chance to speak first.
That's
Yeah, can I
That's a
share?
good idea, Tammy. You know it
Can I
is.
share an
Yeah,
example?
literally, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I shared it.
Please
go ahead, Jared.
In the past, again, a different district, not here. But, there was, a time during COVID where there was a very, eloquent speaker, happened to be, a physician, in the area, right? Everybody took their comments or messages to him because it seemed like he had some respect from the board and had just a certain way of saying things differently. And he was the one that we just kept hearing from all the time.
Okay.
But he was representing a lot of other people.
Mhm.
Right? I don't know if that happens here or not, but I'm just saying, I know from past, like that happened there. I don't know if we wanna take the ability of people to organize and have somebody who wants to speak for them. A pastor or whatever, right? That they're actually saying, hey, here's our issues. I get some protection from you going up there instead of me going up there. And maybe they listen to you better or not, I don't know,
Sure.
but
Okay,
I don't want us to cap that,
yeah.
for people possibly. I just know it's happened in the past.
Yeah, I would, at the end of the discussion, I would still say, I don't see any direct benefit to altering the content of the comments section. I would say maybe if we're worried about time, let's do a hard cap at 15 minutes at the beginning of the meeting and say, hey, this is because we gotta get the other stuff done. If you really have something you need to talk about, please bring it back, or call us or email us, because I read every single email.
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead, Craig.
I have less of a concern about public comment, aside from, perhaps maybe in this particular policy that we should maybe include something about, handouts to the board. Because that again creates a public record, and, if, I think that there's missing language here that specifies what happens with that, whether or not the board is willing to accept any type of handout or whatnot, for whatever purpose that is trying to be illustrated. So those are my thoughts.
So you wanna add a section about it, like if we will or will not accept handouts?
Right,
Actually,
it seemed to have been a suggestion from, at least, one entity that was a legal authority that indicated that perhaps maybe we shouldn't be accepting any type of, handout to the board at all. And
Because of a record.
because of a record.
I don't wanna create that barrier between us and the community. I think we most certainly should take handouts, especially if they're taking their time to attempt to educate us on something we might not be aware of.
The concern would be if there's objectionable content in the handout and then being required to give that to members of the community. That gets pretty complicated, because now a member of the community comes up, says, hey, let me see what that said. You give it to them and they go, this is disgusting. Why did you give it to me? This was wrong. And then you get into all sorts of issues.
Well, you get in the same thing with email, right? Because those are all public records as well, Sam,
I
right?
suppose
Like,
that's true. So they can, yeah, even if they send you an email and you never open it, if they've got a picture or they've got something really nasty in it, yeah.
Yeah, technically you can't really control whether or not you receive someone's email. I mean, you receive what they send you. And at the board meeting, you can at least say, this is our policy on particular handouts. And, I would push back on, Tammy a little bit. I think that there are other avenues that, members of the public can, provide their feedback to the board, and email was one of them. You know, so, if it's that essential for a member of the public to provide that type of documentation to the board, then do it in an email. And it is public record at that point. If I think of seldom situations where minds are going to be made up by a handout that is placed right before a board that's not really going to have the opportunity to digest that information anyway. You know, it probably would be more encouraged for the board to have that information ahead of time. And an email would be more appropriate. I don't know, just some thoughts.
Yeah, Lori, David, what are your thoughts on the subject?
On handouts,
Yeah,
I kind of agree with Tammy on some part of that. Another part of that, you can have handouts that are totally inappropriate.
Mhm.
And you mentioned that. How many times do we get handouts?
Not often, but.
we've gotten 3 or 4
but I-
times in the last.
But I have a workaround in mind that might be getting to what I think, Craig, you're looking at, which is the possible disruptive nature of something like that in lifetime,
Yeah.
but yet balance the need that people like Tammy said may have to want to instruct us. Right, which is to have some verbiage in the policy that says, during public comment time, we do not take handouts. We would ask that you give them to us 24 hours in advance prior to the meeting and reference those handouts, during your comment. So that way you still have the ability for them to give you a handout. You have it in enough time that you can see it before their comments. Actually strengthens their ability to, make their point during their comments, right? And it's not restricting speech, but it is putting it in a way that might not be disruptive to the meeting. I mean, even if it's accidental, like what you're saying is like, you're also trying to provide protection to the people who
Right.
give you that thing, and then all of a sudden it's disruptive to the meeting, and it's not bringing their cause any justice.
Right.
I see where you're trying to have some protection for them in that too. I don't know if that works or doesn't work to resolve the issue that you're talking about and find some common ground for you guys.
I think that sounds great. I think that's a good compromise. The only question I have is 24 hours before the meeting is a Sunday. And so I have no idea how they're going to get if they want to give you a handout, a physical copy of something, there's no reasonable way they're gonna get that to you on a
It's
Sunday.
not a physical copy. I said, email it to the.
Sure.
But go ahead, Mike.
I don't know if the city still has this, but in 2013, I gave them handouts and their policy was almost exactly that. It worked very well for them and it was one business day before.
Sure.
Okay, one business day, that
Yeah.
would be Friday, the Friday before. the
Yeah,
meeting.
and it seemed to work well for them during that time.
That makes sense.
So we potentially have a box where people can submit handouts in person if for some reason they want to give a physical copy of a handout. Like in the ESC. Because I just know that people may, for one reason or another, not prefer to do it digitally.
We could make anything. I wanna know what your thoughts are, and if that requires us to have a Dropbox for handouts, we can make a Dropbox. for handouts.
Or they could drop it off at the front desk.
Yeah, I was gonna say, with
However
the
you wanna
city, this was
receive that.
2013, email wasn't super common.
I mean, if you wanna
We
receive.
brought in physical copies
Mhm.
and we gave them to the clerk. You know,
I
it's,
don't care how
it
you want to
worked.
receive them. Just let us know and we'll try to figure out a way to accommodate that workflow.
I don't think it's in the best interest of the board to put barriers up to get information from our community members in any regard. I imagine a parent going through a stressful time in their life, having issues with the school district that their children are attending, and now we're making them go through this extra hoops because it might cause a little disruption for them to give us a physical copy of a handout of information that they think we need to see. And me trying to articulate to the person why it's justifiable to put that barrier up when they're dealing with substantially more important conflicts in their life, to a point where they've come to the board to address their concerns with the district.
Go ahead, Craig. Sorry.
I'm not disagreeing with that kind of instance, Tammy. I guess I think that, that the tendency would be to not give it the time that it's due otherwise. I mean, to take those types of circumstances into consideration for the board to be able to review that. You know, I think that it just, a business day, is actually, I think, a very good compromise. I mean, it says that you don't necessarily, we do accept them. It gives us an opportunity to make a record of it. And it also gives the board an opportunity to really understand the position that that person holds. Otherwise, they may have to wait. I don't know, I don't wanna say that we, one way or another, but I think that tendency of, in the past that I've seen is a board member may receive a piece of information as a handout and immediately discard it right in front of that particular individual too. That also sends a terrible message.
Well, I think it's on the individual board member at that point, and I don't think that, this is where I really strongly side with Tammy. I do not think that it should be a policy that throttles the individual board member from receiving information from any constituent
Sure.
at that time. I think a board member has the right to say, I'm sorry, I'm not going to accept that information. Don't like the way that it looks, but I think it looks objectionable, I should say. I understand why someone might take that approach, but I prefer to have as much information as possible. I still think at the end of the day, I think asking people to deliver it at a one business day before is great, but I think people should still be able to deliver that information as they are available to do so.
So, I think we're talking about two different things here.
Yeah.
One, the first thing we're talking about with 24 hours is that it's part of your meeting packet, right? It's part of your, you've got time to disseminate it, at least you've got 24 hours, right? And it's part of what you need to see for that agenda item, right? Anyone can walk up to somebody and hand them a, hand them a document. Especially if you're in a meeting, if it's before the meeting, they're gonna hand you a document and you're gonna read it before the meeting? Not likely, because you won't have time. But they can email us 5 minutes before the meeting, right? We're still not gonna have time to read whatever they emailed, right? But it's not part of the meeting packet. It's more spontaneous.
Yeah. Well, and then you have to
I
deal with out.
I was trying to offer a compromise before, but I really agree a lot with Tammy here on the idea that like we don't want to impede speech. I mean, let's say they don't have a handout. They come with a sign in the back, right? They're following the policy that says signs can't be in front or block other people's vision or whatever else. But it's not even a handout, but it's information to you.
Well, I'm not saying
Right,
that.
and
yeah.
so like, I have a hard time saying we're gonna throttle back handouts, but yet I can put a sign up or hold a picture up, right? As long as I'm not being disruptive and I'm in the back and I'm following that part of that policy. I don't know.
I've only
I have a hard
ever
time-
twice, since being involved with the district, had people give handouts, okay? Both comments directly related to the handout. One was like more information, right? Like one community member said, this is my statement. I've also provided an article with further information for you if you want to learn more on this topic. Okay, so I don't see how that could hinder the meeting, especially if she's just giving us, or a community member is giving us more information for us to look into at our leisure.
Yeah, I think you're missing kind of not understanding my point. My point is anyone at any time should be able to come over to us and say, hey, I've got this for you, right? But if you want it to be part of the meeting packet
Yes.
that you prepare for the meeting.
So encourage it ahead of time, but take it
Yes.
anytime is what you're saying.
And so,
Yeah,
and this is significant because there was a specific instance, I'm gonna get a little bit more specific about it, in the past, where a community member brought in packets, laid them down at each board member's seat, and then a member of the board, I'll put it very broadly, decided that that was not appropriate, picked up the packets and threw them away. And so there's where the issue comes in is, does the board president or a member of the board or the superintendent or someone decide whether or not something is appropriate for each individual member? Or do the individual members of the board decide whether to intake or disregard that particular set of information, whether it is informative, obscene, or grotesque or whatever? Who does that come down to? Does it come down to the individual or does it come down to someone in a.
I would say it comes down to the individual,
That's how I feel
but if
as
it's
well.
part of the meeting packet
Yes,
in preparing for the meeting, reasonably to prepare for it, you need 24 hours notice.
yes,
So that's what I'm saying.
yes.
If you're gonna have it on the agenda, then have time.
Right, yeah.
Well, I don't think they'd ever put it, like, if they send an email, if a community member sends an email to us about a comment they're gonna make the next day with some attachments. In those situations, Lynn wouldn't add that to our meeting agenda, correct? That would just, it would most certainly be public records requestable if, like, I sent an email in saying I need all the emails received on this day, that email should be delivered to me. But Lynn wouldn't necessarily add any of their handouts or presentations to our agenda, correct? Like on board docs is what I'm referring to.
Okay, and so. There are a couple of things that are in the mix of the conversation, and I wanna make sure we're parsing out speech versus. Things that can be disruptive to a meeting. And or maybe handed out or shown to. Cause sometimes when they do the handout, they hand it off to you and the audience, right?
Mhm.
And this is a public forum place,
Mhm.
and in a public forum place, oftentimes we have students or other people who attend,
Mhm.
right? There are people who sometimes, because they're so passionate about what they're speaking about, and they want to make the point that they want to make about, they forget that there might be minors in the audience, or that it may be disruptive to our psyche and or discussion points about how do I see that, and then get my thoughts back on like these fiscal topics or whatever else it is. That's why our policy addresses that kind of speech differently, and it gives our board president the authority to cut those kind of comments off. Or make sure that those visuals aren't here or whatever. You guys give that authority to a board president, right? For those purposes. That's different than some of the other stuff that we're talking about that we don't want to quell speech on. But there are some reasons to quell speech in those specific kinds of incidences.
So then what I would say is, it should say, we encourage them to be handed out one business day before. Once a meeting has begun, no material shall be distributed to the board. And, yeah, no, I think that covers it.
Well, I don't know if we wanna do that, Sam, because what if somebody wants to hand it out right before they give their public comment?
Well, that gets into disruption. So a person might be able to come up and do public comment, but then if they're holding a big sign and they put it down in front of people, they can't obstruct people's view with their sign while they're giving their comment, right? So the issue of handing it out while you're doing your comment is it's becoming invasive and disruptive. So that would be my thought there.
Well, and I think we also need to indicate that there's no guarantee that we would have the time to read that document that night. Because if 3 people bring up documents, we're not gonna be able to get into the meeting on time, to Lori's
Yeah,
point.
I have literally presented before this school board
Mhm.
years ago. And told them, when I leave, I will email you all the document that I'm referring to.
Mhm.
It's not hard to do.
Yeah. I still think that if someone wants to, before a meeting starts, if a person wants to put a document down at each person's table.
Or yes, but
Yes.
during the meeting, no.
Yeah,
No, you've
no,
got.
I do think that
Yeah.
once the meeting has begun, you're in the process of having that active meeting, it's a whole different deal. What are they gonna walk in front of the owl? Or how is that gonna happen? That's just, it's a little bit too complicated, so I can definitely understand that. Oh, and also specifying that handouts shall not be given to members of the public, I guess, or I don't even know if you can say that, really,
You
because like
can.
a person can just give what they want to people, right?
They could hand them out to people.
Right.
And if someone feels that what was handed out to them was inappropriate, then I think that they would have to take like legal channels and things like that, right? If they're like, whoa, don't give that to my kid, you gotta say like this, you gotta go to a police officer and say, this person handed this to my child and I believe it was inappropriate, I think, right? I mean,
Well, we wouldn't be liable because we're not the one passing it
Yeah,
out. It's
well,
the community member.
So. A couple of things to think about in regards to that, right? And this is where I would say that it really depends on the situation and you would really want to involve your attorney. But we do have some responsibility to the public to conduct an open forum, a public forum, where they have safety, right? And those kind of things, right? So you're right, like when it comes to before they get in the door, before we start the meeting, we can't stop that. But we can stop it as we've already started our meeting, and that's disruptive stuff that you're doing, right? To the meeting and to the people who are attending the meeting. We certainly have a public interest right that we have to be able to help control that if we need to. Right? I just want to say that there is a difference in that, right? Just because people are like, you can't stop me from handing these things out. The issue is, well, yes, we can during our meeting time and during the public interest that we hold, we certainly can. I don't want you to think you can never do that, right? I know that people can challenge that, right? And that's when we get our attorney involved and we say, this is why we did that, right? We did that to protect the interest of those who are attending the meeting and during the meeting time. But you're right, as soon as they go out that door or as soon as the meeting's over, people want to start handing out whatever they want to hand out to anybody who will take it. We can't stop that.
So at the end of the day, it just seems like there's not really a whole lot we would add here that would change anything with any substance. I don't know.
I mean, it's good to have the discussion and reiterate.
Oh, yeah.
And I also agree with you guys in that we don't ever want to be seen as people who are going to like try to quell speech, right? But we also are people who want to make sure that we protect the public's interest of safety and everything during our public forums. Right? That's also why we ask officers to be here, right? To protect our safety and the public safety.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just, I appreciate the conversation. I just want to be on the same page with people. And that's really where I'm at.
Yeah.
Like if I really want to live up to the board's expectations on what happens at that period of time in our meetings. So.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you bringing it forward. I think it was a great conversation. I think we're pretty clear on where Tammy stands on that. Dave, Lori, you got any further thoughts to build on anything we've talked about?
No, good conversation.
Yeah. And then I know Carl loves free speech, so I want to ask him, all right, Carl, how do you feel about it? You got any thoughts?
First, you're the committee. I'm not a member of that.
It's very respectful.
That's very respectful of you.
Okay, well, I don't think there's gonna be any further discussion. If Tammy comes in and she says, oh, I had something else, we can pop back to it really quick. Then we've got the Neola policy singles. This is actually something that I believe Tammy brought forward. I think we got an email from her about this. So she's probably the best person to start off the conversation. Lynn, you did add some clarifying comments about 5722 when you were asked about.
So this is actually a policy, a 5,000 policy.
Yeah,
that
Oh, wait a minute.
not
Oh,
looked at.
sorry. It's got a very similar name. I'm sorry. We got an email about that earlier. Yeah, so give us some information, guys.
So, you wanna go, cause you work closer with them and.
I just need to open it up for you.
And or if Jason is.
Jason, if you're on too, maybe you can help.
While you
So-
were gone, we all decided you were really barking up the wrong tree and we're gonna censure you.
Okay.
Wow. Not at all.
It's for the rest of my time.
So Jason Bull, we are on the last agenda item, school sponsored publications and productions. I know you worked with Jenny Borst on that policy. Is there anything important that you would like to share or that we should know around this policy? It is a Neola policy that you guys put your attention towards.
Yes, thank you. First, I always start with gratitude to Lynn and Jenny, and I think took a look at this over the course of 2 sessions. So thank you for the collaboration. I think it's important to note that we not only looked at the Neola policy, but also some neighboring district policies, and felt that the decisions that we are proposing here align with not only the direction of other policies that have already been adopted, but are aligned with neighboring districts. I think the foundation of it is that what we have selected boils down to We want to give students the opportunity to be engaged in learning activities, but always with under the supervision and advisory of an adult that's connected to our district. I think those are the things that I think are important to note. Lynn, what?
Have any- Oh, go ahead. Sorry. Questions? Oh,
I don't have any questions.
He looks.
paused, yeah. Hey, Jason, we're gonna start talking. Sorry if you are still talking. We'll try to shut up if you jump back to life there.
I think
Any questions?
it looks like my video is frozen, but I can still hear you. I don't know if you can hear me.
I can hear you now. If you turn off video, it might improve your connection. That always works for me. Yeah, anything further before we open it up to the committee, Jason?
I have it up here in my office, and be happy to answer any specific question that the team might have.
Awesome. Thank you, Jason. All right, Lori, Tammy, Dave, any questions there?
Yeah. This is new to me. I am curious to see if bullying is going to be an issue with the expanded social media use, but that's my only question.
I think our policy on bullying and the use of social media for bullying would still hold true with anything like this. Yeah.
Or how she really worked hard on.
Oh, yeah.
Good.
Yeah, it's excellent. Tammy, you got any thoughts?
No,
Looks
not,
good to
not
you.
on this policy. It looks good to me.
Yeah, yep, I don't have any thoughts at present.
Then we can forward it to first read at the
Mhm.
board level, right?
Yeah.
And then,
Okay.
oh, Craig, did you?
I'm still trying to wrap my mind around what would be an example of schools sponsored social media for students.
Well, so I want to remind you that this is not just social media, it's publications and productions, right?
Okay.
So it has anything to do with, like our middle schoolers, work with a green screen to produce some of the daily announcements every once in a while, right? And they're doing like a TV broadcast. It can be that, it can be a newspaper, it could be a yearbook, it could be like really anything. But the expansion of the social media portion is really just an uptick in what we see as a media that they are starting to use more often. And we wanted to make sure that we started to think about that in the same kinds of ways we would think about how we would teach appropriate speech through those other venues. And that's what this is really.
It's not school sponsored student social media, it's student media that is sponsored by schools. So it would be videos, articles, things like that are sponsored by the school, written or produced by students. It can only be on the social media that is approved by WUSD.
Yes. So basically any student involvement in media publications gonna be supervised by staff anyway.
Yes, in general.
Yeah.
In general.
Sure.
And before posting it on social media, it needs to be approved by the district.
Right. I mean, we do have some clubs, right, that aren't necessarily run by a staff member or paid by a staff member. They may be a volunteer. But that's why I said in general, it's gonna be through a staff member, but always it's probably gonna be reviewed by an adult, right? And I know I said always probably, and that one negates the other a little bit sometimes, but I always leave that 0.0001% chance that it may have missed an adult's eyes.
If I could just add some context, I think what Dr. Burke has highlighted is exactly what Lynn, Jenny, and I thought of. As an example, in a former life, I was a high school principal and thought about a student-led organization that worked through the yearbook, the newspaper, promoting the school through social media, and thinking about those checks and balances to ensure that the content that was pushed out was appropriate and the messages that we wanted to push out.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have any further comments. Anyone else? No? Okay. We will move on from that to item number 4, policies, new major revisions. We have none. So we will move on to future agenda planning. Do we have anything outside of the action items we've discussed today that we would like to see on the next agenda?
Tammy, you mentioned something to me on the phone the other day about training and how to respond.
Oh, about, when we get disgruntled community members?
Yes.
I don't know if that was necessarily gonna be a policy or if it was gonna just be something that was articulated to the board, so we responded consistently.
Yeah.
There'd probably be a planning discussion, if anything, it would be
Craig
professional
mentioned it would
development.
be policy the other day when I brought it up.
I think it would be planning for professional development or board development.
Yeah, but
It could, yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
if it's, because Tammy, I think. She was asking, I'm trying not to get into a conversation, but she was trying to. If I'm not mistaken, trying to articulate. How we would approach. That, from a unified front. You know, in a particular type of situation. That awfully does seem to speak to like, a little bit of like, collective commitments, right?
Yeah, I feel like we have that in our collective commitments already, and we actually talked about board behavior earlier today. It's 01445.
So I had this conversation with Jason Bull,
Mhm.
and Melissa. And I don't think we were looking for a broad policy on it, but the actual execution process,
Mhm.
right, which would fall under, I think, like an administrative guideline or verbal.
So how we've attempted to address this in the past, right, is to take that up at any certain committee, right? Because the policy committee doesn't have to draft every single policy. Your piece around district communication falls mostly where planning is. I would say have planning take it up, have planning decide to research maybe other drafts that may be at other schools or create your own draft.
Mhm.
Go through your process of drafting that, right? And then send it to the board. If there's interest, they can kick it to policy for refinement and then resolve it. And that's how we've done things in the past.
I guess my question is, do you think something needs to be drafted? And that's really me asking, right? Like, this was really only came up in the conversation as we started putting the tables out at those events.
I think something needs to be drafted only because it will start the conversation,
Okay.
right?
Let's do that.
You may draft something and go like, oh, well, that's great. That's great. I mean, like, for instance, we started a draft of the controversial issues, AG, because we knew we needed more than the policy. And then we saw that Neola came with something else and it was like, oh, well, we can ban the work on this because this is actually better, it's broader, it tackles the situation, blah, blah, blah. And we went with that. But if we didn't have that, it was good to do the work that we did because we would have been in a place where we would have said, hey, let's take from all that work that we've done and let's refine something to offer the board, and the board will say yes or no. And if the board says no, fine, we did the work of the committee and we put our minds around it. The board says yes and refine it, then it went to a little bit further. So I wouldn't want to stomp on any idea. I think every idea that you think is worthy of some committee work or some discussion, do that work and then bring it to the full board and say, here's the start. Do you want us to keep working on this or should we abandon it?
Okay.
Right?
So perhaps let's have a discussion about that
Yeah,
on.
Jason and I need
plan.
to touch base
Yeah.
anyway, so.
All right, and then, any other thoughts? All right, that's, I'm actually gonna, technically number 8 is next meeting date, but let's talk briefly about this because you mentioned this before the meeting started. Obviously, we've got the holidays coming up, which tightens our schedule availability. Lynn, can you bring up the schedule for November and what you've got listed for meeting dates?
Meeting dates sheet. You increase it. Go up to the percent up top, yeah, thanks. My eyes are getting older.
More. Well. And. 17. All right, so the dates, because we wouldn't be looking in the last week of November if we were gonna have a policy meeting next month. Currently, we're set to have one in December. Does the committee want to see at least a standing meeting to be on the books in November, or would you like to see this go and pass a month as we have done historically?
Well, I would personally say yes, we keep it just because we have updates that we still need to work for Neola, so I don't think it would be beneficial for us to skip a month if we're behind on the updates.
Right.
And my understanding is we were, right? Like we only got through the 4,000s.
And he said that the second batch is going to be coming in November, early November. We're discussing with him, so we would have things to work through. But it would be coming after the board meeting, most likely. So we'd be looking at the 3rd, the 6th, the 7th, or the 11th, the 13th, or the 14th, if we wanted to have a meeting before November's board meeting.
And like I said, I don't know when in November we're gonna get them. And so to have them ready for a November meeting,
You'd have to have it pretty late.
I mean, like, I don't, and again, that last week is the holiday week, right? The Friday, at least the Friday before, I'm gonna be on vacation, maybe even the Thursday before. So I like anything after the 17th gets a little bit more dicey in my schedule. I'm not saying we can't do it, but I do know this, the next meeting is the 3rd of December.
It's a very quick turnaround time.
And that's why I'm saying is,
So
I'd
then,
rather have a longer meeting on the 3rd than try to jam in 2 short meetings, and that's my opinion during holiday time. And you guys also saw the schedule of events that we have coming up for other things, parent teacher conferences and everything else, and you're scheduled on some of those. We don't even have, this is just our general meetings, we don't have even those up here, and I don't know how many of those are in there.
I must have to be looking at the updated document because I'm still showing December 10th.
Yeah, you're seeing the old one.
Yeah.
The new one's up here on the screen.
In years past, we did tend to skip one of those months in there, whether it was in November or in December.
For planning or policy.
I felt like it was usually December that we decided to not have a meeting because
I feel like with us trying to start a curriculum review committee, we should keep it in November and discuss possibly skipping December. That way, if we need to bring anything having to do with the curriculum review committee to policy to get it to move forward quicker, we shouldn't delay that process.
We can just have a quicker meeting in November.
So, if we're going, so, and this is kind of, splitting the difference, because I definitely hear what you're saying. I would say, if people are open to it, having a standing meeting on the 14th, it's Friday, which is not super fun. Having a standing meeting on the 14th, if we get those documents, then we have an opportunity to look them over, but we have a hard stop time because it's a Friday, people don't want to be here all night. We're gonna look those over, get done when we get done. And then if we
Then
don't,
motion to move to the next meeting.
Yes. yes, and if we don't get those documents,
Talking about a one topic, meeting on quarterly.
if we get the Neola policy updates. by the
Oh, I
14th,
mean, just the updates.
the next batch of updates.
So that rules out what she was saying about a curriculum committee,
Well, I think,
update or. And I don't know that there's anything policy wise related to that, because now the only thing that's next is the policy is written, you guys have approved it. You're gonna discuss a meeting date. Craig's gonna put together, an email that sends out to you and says, anybody who is interested in the curriculum committee, let me know.
Yeah.
Right, and then he's gonna assign people, and then they're gonna just meet on the first date that you guys had created for whatever Tuesday of the month or Monday of the month or whatever it is. They will meet on the next one that's available after the commitment from the board president to say, yes, you're on this committee, go forth and back. Right, so like, I don't know if there's policy work, it's more clerical steps that's gotta go through.
Like back end stuff.
Yeah, it's like when we do board restructuring, he does those same things that there's no policy that has to go on that, it's just.
No,
He's following the policy that's already in place, which is if there's a committee and there needs to be membership of the committee. The board president has to do that, and so,
and
when you guys finalize the policy for it. He will then make that piece go.
and so that's why I'm saying, if we have a standing meeting for, say, the 14th, if for some reason we need to talk about the curriculum committee as a part of policy, we have a standing date that we already have set up, so we don't have to scramble to find it. And then if we also get the Neola policy updates, we also have a standing date, so we can get some work done on those. The reason that I would do the hard stop time of 7:30, you know, you get a 2-hour, that way people don't have to be worrying about being here until 8 PM on a Friday night. That's just not a fun time for people. So that's where I would stand on that. What do the other committee members think? As far as the idea that I just put out there? Would you rather see us go without in November, or would you rather have that standing meeting?
I would like to have the option of the standing meeting. That way, if we only have one item on the list, that's fine. If we, you know,
another thing that was done in the past was, if there were updates or. I mean, we're talking about updates at this point in time. And it was about, policies that the staff was working through or alignment, and, instead of having the meeting, if the staff could have those updates sent to the committee, at a pace that over the course of that month, in lieu of meeting, at least you can review those updates instead of having a meeting. And then, when it comes in December, you can have a larger list of updates.
Yeah, we use that idea to speed the meetings along, and it did, because what we also said is if you have a comment, right, send it to the chair of the committee so that they can collect all those and work independently with the administrator if need be.
And so my only concern there is I think that gets into walking quorum territory.
No, it doesn't when, if they are sending you information.
It's one way. I don't say anything back to them.
No, they're sending you information. You say, thank you, I received it. You and I can work on those comments as work group. Bring them back to the full, we're not having conversation about it, right? We're just working on those comments. I don't see that as a walking forum.
Sure, I can
Because
understand that.
what will happen is those comments will come to the group for everybody to discuss.
Okay.
Not put them out there and say, now let's discuss them some more. That become a walking forum, but just basically sending them out and saying, if you have any information to give us back, give it to one person. Don't give it to everybody.
Don't reply.
Yeah, don't reply all.
Try
Right.
your best not to reply all. Sometimes it gets on there.
Reply just to the chair. Because that's how that can work and we can move things forward.
I do appreciate that, and I think we should take that into account. I guess 8:01, I'm gonna ask for a call of hands so we can wrap things up. Call of hands, do the members of the committee want to see a standing on the 14th? Would start at 5:30, go until only 7:30, or would you like to do, just do the updates, email model? All in favor of the 14th as a standing meeting date, raise your hand. Okay. Yeah, and I'll go along with that certainly. I did propose it.
although getting the information ahead of time.
Yeah.
Is is also helpful.
Yes. Oh, yeah, always. I
Yeah.
mean, if you want to email something ahead of time, go.
For a
Yeah.
quicker meeting, if you've got all your questions answered.
Yeah, and if we're not seeing anything materialize by like the 10th,
I'll just say, hey, we haven't gotten it. from
yeah,
the-
and then
Right.
we'll just, yeah, we'll call it off.
We'll just, hope we haven't had enough time to do it by the third.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So let's see where that goes, but at least we have a standing date. So if something does turn around, we don't have to scramble to find it. All right, that sounds good. Lynn, we're gonna move on to action items. Can you give us a rundown of our action items? Thank you very much.
Policy, 1022, I don't know what that one was, but anyway, I need to add between D and E, review and establish curriculum and approve curriculum materials. Policy, 1100 district organization, the superintendent should be added at the beginning of the third paragraph in front of the word shall. Policy 1130 ethics and conflict of interest, remove in letter A, the word duties was in there twice, remove the second duties. 0144.5 board member behavior communications and collective commitments. We're removing collective commitments from the title. And we're not accepting the change that Neola recommended, accepting the word reputation or in the second paragraph, so I'll strike that. 3120.04 employment of substitutes, accept the changes regarding criminal background check that Scott updated. 3120.08 employment of personnel. I need to add criminal history check at the end of the third paragraph. Neola policy updates that Scott, helped us through. Those can go first read to the October board meeting after the updates are made. The controversial issues in the classroom guideline, we need to add or personal convictions under the alternative learning activities. And also in the same guidelines under letter D, remove derogatory, malicious, or abusive toward, and replace those words with not intentionally intended to harm. And then that can go to first read after those adjustments have been made. Committees, the committee's policy 0155 can go to first read. And the policy 5722 school sponsored publications and productions can go to first read. We are going to schedule a policy committee meeting November 14th at 5:30, and we will do our best to email any updates to you guys ahead of time for that meeting.
They all sound great. There's only one item and it's very technical, but in the controversial issues,
Yes,
letter D,
yep,
what I heard from the committee was putting the word intentionally between the words not and the word derogatory.
yeah, it was not intentionally intended to harm.
Okay. So we're replacing derogatory, malicious, or abusive with intent, not
Intentionally intended to harm.
not intentionally intended harm. Okay, yeah, sure. That sounds good to me. Okay, if there are no further comments, we are adjourned at 8:05 p.m.
Perfect.
Good seeing you guys. I'll see you.
I have something for you guys once we.
We had yeah, so
I do too, because I got a funny feeling I'm the only person.
maybe nothing. Yeah,
You guys may want to close the meeting out.
okay. Have a good night, Carl.
Night.